Los Angeles, October 1972. The gym smells like leather and sweat. The wooden floor has darkened over years of absorbing thousands of training sessions. On the walls, posters with Chinese characters, framed photographs, certificates. At the center of one wall, in a place of honor, the name Jeet Kune Do is written in large characters. Master Victor Chan moves through the gym like a man who stopped needing to prove himself to anyone a long time ago. He is 42. Broad shoulders, heavy footwork, hands that know things he never needs to brag about. He has walked the gym twice, the way you walk through something you own, because this is exactly what he owns. 12 students stand in 3 rows waiting. They come here 3 times a week, not because the gym is cheap. In 1972 Los Angeles, cheap martial arts gyms are everywhere. They come because Victor Chan is the best Jeet Kune Do instructor in the city. He says so himself. Rarely does anyone dare to disagree. He opened the school in 1969, trained under a student of Bruce Lee. He says that too, though the details of that training grow hazier, the more his reputation grows. There are many certificates on the wall, fewer and fewer questions about where they came from. Today is an ordinary Tuesday. Training starts in 20 minutes. Have you ever been in a room where someone was clearly performing confidence rather than actually carrying it, where the authority felt real enough until something small made you question it? That question is exactly where this story begins. The bell above the door rang. Victor Chan did not turn around immediately. That was also part of who he was. He turns when he decides to turn. When he finally looked toward the door, a small man stood there, light, no more than 63 kilograms if his eye was right, dressed simply, dark shirt, dark pants, thin-framed glasses. He stood at the threshold and looked around the gym with an expression Chan could not immediately classify. Not admiration, not curiosity, something else. Something that slightly unsettled him, though he could not have explained why. "We don't accept new students without an appointment," Chan said, without moving. The man nodded. His voice turned out to be quiet but clear. "I understand. I just wanted to look at the gym, if you don't mind." The accent was barely noticeable. Cantonese, maybe from Hong Kong. Chan narrowed his eyes. "Do you practice?" "A little," the visitor answered. Someone in the student rows laughed quietly. "A little." In this gym, that sounded like an apology. Victor Chan made a wide gesture with his hand, generous, slightly condescending, exactly the kind of gesture he liked making in front of students. "Come in then, I decide who enters." The visitor walked in. He moved quietly, not cautiously, not tense, simply quiet. He scanned the gym slowly, as though reading something on the walls, and stopped in front of a poster with Chinese characters. "Jeet Kune Do," he said, "the way of the intercepting fist." "Exactly," said Chan, stepping closer. "You know what that is?" "I've heard a few things." "A few things," Chan repeated. He smiled, not unkindly, more like patiently, the way adults smile at children who use words they don't yet understand. "Good, then let me explain. Jeet Kune Do is not simply a style. It is not a collection of techniques. It is a philosophy of combat, created by the greatest martial artist of our time, a system that frees the fighter from the chains of tradition." The visitor listened, did not nod, just listened. "And you teach this system?" "I do, 3 years here, years of practice before that." Chan paused. "Do you have experience in martial arts?" "I do." "In what style?" The visitor slowly removed his glasses, folded them, and placed them in his pocket. "In different ones." Another laugh from the students. Chan did not stop it. He did not need to. The laughter worked in his favor right now. "In different ones," he repeated. "That is a common mistake. People sample a little of everything and think it makes them universal. In reality, it makes them nobody." He paused, letting the words settle. "In Jeet Kune Do there is the concept of being free from style, but that does not mean mixing things together at random. It means passing through the system, understanding its foundation, and only then becoming free." "Free," the visitor finished. Chan stopped. "Exactly," he said, more carefully this time. The visitor looked again at the characters on the wall. "But if there is a system, doesn't that contradict the freedom?" The silence in the room shifted. Students exchanged glances. Victor Chan straightened. The question was not bad. He had heard it before. He had an answer for it. Rehearsed, convincing. The system is a ladder, he said. You climb it, then you leave it behind. But first you must climb. You cannot discard what you have never held. That's logical, said the visitor. But what if the ladder itself leads somewhere wrong? Victor Chan studied him more carefully. Something about this man was beginning to bother him. Not hostility. No, more like the absence of the usual response. People who came here for the first time behaved predictably. They admired, they listened, they agreed. This one did not. Maybe you'd like to watch the training, Chan offered. That explains more than words. I'd be glad to. Here is the thing about genuine mastery. It almost never announces itself. It doesn't need to. And the people who are loudest about what they know are usually the ones who haven't yet questioned whether they know it correctly. Training began. Victor Chan worked with his students well, and that must be acknowledged. He knew technique. The basic Jeet Kune Do stance. Right-sided fighting position, lead hand forward closer to the opponent, ready for an immediate strike or interception. The straight punch, not circular, not with a wind-up, but linear along the shortest path. Economy of motion. Interception on a direct course. He explained clearly, demonstrated precisely, corrected immediately. The visitor stood against the wall and watched, not moving. Chan glanced at him occasionally. The man observed with that same unclassifiable expression, not admiration, not boredom, something more like very deep, very quiet attention. After 20 minutes, Chan called over his senior student, a tall young man named Ray, about 85 kilograms, fast for his size. Let's show our guest something, Chan said. The demonstration was well practiced. Ray attacked. Chan intercepted, redirected, controlled. The movements were smooth and confident. The students watched with familiar respect. The visitor watched too. When they finished, Chan turned to him. Questions. 1, said the visitor. When you intercepted his arm, why did you step to the side instead of moving forward? Moving forward along the line removes his power faster. Shorter line. The room went quiet. In theory, said Chan. But in practice, would you like to try? It was said simply, not as a challenge, more as a question. Still, Victor Chan felt something he could not name, not a threat, more like a discrepancy. This man weighed no more than 63 kilograms. He had come to look at the gym. He had said he practiced a little. And yet, of course, said Chan. Ray, stand across from our guest. The visitor stepped to the center of the floor without any fuss, without warming up. He simply stood, and in the way he stood, something in the space of the gym changed. Not a pose, not a threat, simply presence. Ray was 22 kilograms heavier. Attack, said the visitor, calmly, the way you'd ask someone to pass the salt. Ray looked at Chan. Chan nodded. Ray attacked with a straight punch, fast, well-structured, exactly what Chan had taught. What happened in the next few seconds, the students would later describe differently. Some said the visitor simply shifted, not stepped back, shifted by a fraction of a centimeter, and the punch passed through air. Some said he moved forward, directly into the attack, which seemed impossible. Some said he didn't move at all, and the punch somehow failed to reach its target on its own. The result was the same. Ray's arm was gently, effortlessly guided to the side. The visitor stood 30 centimeters away from him. His right hand was 5 centimeters from Ray's throat. Open palm, not a fist. Ray froze. Silence in the gym. The visitor lowered his hand. Shorter line, he said quietly, almost softly. Victor Chan stood without moving. Something inside him, deep down, something he would not say aloud, began to understand. Again, he said. Ray attacked again, faster this time. He was no longer holding back. Then again, then a combination, left, right, left again. Each time the same thing happened, but not the same way. Each time differently. One step forward, one to the side, one pause with no movement at all. The strike passed into emptiness, as if the man were not there. And each time, an open palm somewhere near the point where the defense ended. Ray stopped. He was breathing harder than those exchanges should have required. Chan stepped closer. Where did you train? His voice had changed, not condescending, simply different. In different places, the visitor repeated. That's not an answer. No, the visitor agreed. It isn't. He added nothing. Chan looked at him, then at the students frozen in anticipation, then back at this small man standing before him with a completely calm face, as if nothing unusual had occurred. Tell me, the visitor said, you mentioned that Jeet Kune Do was created by the greatest master of our time. Who did you mean? Bruce Lee, said Chan, obviously. You've met him. A short pause, almost invisible. I trained under his student. I see, the visitor nodded. And do you feel you understand what he wanted when he created this? Victor Chan felt something sharp and unpleasant, not an insult, worse, a question he had no convincing answer to, and he knew it. I practice this every day, he said. I've been teaching for 3 years. I think I understand enough. Enough for what? Chan paused to pass it on to others. The visitor nodded slowly, as though weighing something invisible. You know, he said at last, when I first began thinking about what would later be called Jeet Kune Do, it seemed to me that the main mistake people make with any martial art is that they begin teaching it before they understand what exactly cannot be taught within it. The silence in the room became something different, not confusion, tension, like the air before a storm when nothing has happened yet, but the body already knows. Victor Chan looked at him. What do you mean? I mean that you teach technique well. What I saw, the stance, the interception, the angle, correct. The visitor paused. But technique is not what I was trying to create. Technique is the form. I was trying to create a space where form becomes unnecessary. Chan slowly, very slowly, repeated what he had just heard to himself. I was trying to create. Who are you? He said, quietly, already knowing the answer or beginning to know it. The visitor took his glasses from his pocket, put them on, and looked at Chan. My name is Bruce Lee. Many years would pass, and some of those who were in that gym that Tuesday in October 1972 would tell the story of this moment. Each would remember it differently. Some would remember the silence that followed, some the look on Victor Chan's face, some what happened next. But all of them would agree on one thing. This was a moment you could not prepare for, because no technique exists for it. Victor Chan did not flinch. At 42 you don't faint, you don't shout, but something inside reorganizes itself very fast and very painfully, like a bone being reset. That's impossible, he said, not as a denial, as an attempt to collect the facts. Bruce Lee looked at him calmly, without triumph. That absence of triumph was the hardest part. It would have been easier if he was smiling, savoring the moment. That could have been dismissed. Are you here to shut down my school? Chan asked. His voice was steady, but something in it revealed the effort that steadiness was costing him. No, said Bruce Lee. I told you, I was walking past. I saw the sign. I came in by chance. I walk a lot. A pause. You could have told me from the beginning who you were. I could have, but then you would have shown me what you wanted me to see, not what I actually saw. Those are different things. Victor Chan closed his eyes, opened them. He was a professional. He knew how to hold himself together. And what did you see? Bruce Lee walked slowly through the gym, stopped in front of the poster with the Chinese characters, and looked at it for a long time, the way you look at something you once wrote, discovered now in someone else's place. I saw a man who knows how to do what I did, he said, and doesn't understand why I did it. He turned. That's not an insult. It is the most common thing in the world. Most people who speak about me do the same. Then explain, what is it I don't understand? Something in Chan had changed. The hardness was gone, something else remained, something that looked like thirst. Bruce Lee was quiet for a moment. When I created this, he said at last, I was not creating a style. I was destroying style. I wanted to remove everything unnecessary, tradition, ritual, form for the sake of form. to leave only what works here now with this specific person against this specific opponent. I know that, said Chan. That's how I teach. No, Bruce Lee's voice was soft, but it was the softness of precision, not concession. You teach my answers, but Jeet Kune Do is not answers. It is the ability to ask the right questions. Chan looked at him. The difference is enormous. My answers existed in a specific moment, against a specific person. In a specific context. If you teach these people my answers, you are preparing them for my situations, which they will never face. Bruce Lee looked at the students, one by one, as though seeing each of them individually. Each of them is different. Each has their own body, their own speed, their own story. What works for me will be a mistake for some of them. The room was so quiet that the street noise through the windows was audible, distant, indifferent, the way the street always sounds when something important is happening inside. Then what do you teach? Asked one of the students. A young man, about 20, front row. He asked quietly, almost apologetically, as though sorry for interrupting. Bruce Lee turned to him. The ability to see, he said, yourself, your opponent, the moment, not fixed technique, living perception. He paused. Do you know why the best boxer in the world cannot teach you to be the best boxer in the world? Because he can only teach you how he became the best boxer, and you are not him. The student nodded slowly. Victor Chan stood without moving. Something inside him was sorting through words, the way you go through belongings after a fire, checking what survived. So that means, he began. It doesn't mean what you're doing is meaningless, Bruce Lee said. Technique matters, the body must know movement, but that is the beginning of the path, not its end. Many people who call themselves masters of Jeet Kune Do stopped halfway up the ladder and declared that the ladder itself is the summit. Chan was quiet for a long time. I've been teaching people for 3 years, he said finally. He didn't finish. Thought you what? Bruce Lee said quietly, completing the space. Understood, I thought I understood. That's understandable. Understanding is a seductive thing, it gives peace. A pause. I myself don't understand everything I'm trying to do. Honestly, every day I find something that contradicts what I concluded the day before. That's uncomfortable. It never ends. He smiled slightly. But it's the only way not to stop. Chan looked at him directly for a long time. You came here to tell me this. I came by chance. I stayed because your students deserve more than a copy. Silence. Mori meaning what? A teacher who is still learning, who comes to them not with answers but with questions, who will be different tomorrow than he is today. Bruce Lee looked at the students again. They will feel it. People always feel the difference between something alive and something frozen. Victor Chan nodded. Once, he no longer tried to argue, not because he couldn't, because he had heard something that made argument unnecessary. I have a question, he said. Yes. If you cannot teach a person to be themselves, why did you open schools at all? Why did you take students? Bruce Lee looked at him, and for the first time that evening, something appeared in his expression that resembled pleasure, not triumph, the pleasure of a good question. I didn't take students to make them into myself, he said. I wanted to help them find themselves. Those are different things. He was quiet for a moment. Water does not teach a vessel its shape. It takes the shape of the vessel, but it remains water. Chan exhaled slowly. Be like water. Exactly. The young student from the front row said quietly, Did you write that somewhere? I thought about it for a long time, said Bruce Lee, before I wrote it. He reached for the light jacket he had left against the wall, buttoned it, and looked at the gym one more time. The wooden floor, the posters, the 12 people standing in silence. Good gym, he said. Good people. A pause. Continue. He turned and walked toward the door. Bruce, said Chan. He stopped without turning. If you hadn't walked in today, I would have kept going the same way as before. I know. That's not good. No, Bruce Lee agreed, but it's correctable. He turned around. The question you just asked yourself, that is the first real lesson of Jeet Kune Do. Not technique, not interception, but the willingness to see that something is wrong before anyone tells you. He opened the door, the bell rang again. "Will you come back?" asked the young student from the front row. Bruce Lee stood in the doorway. He didn't answer immediately. He looked at the boy. "Keep training," he said at last. "Not for me, for the sake of moving differently tomorrow than you do today." A pause. "If that happens, you won't need me." The door closed. The bell went silent. No one in the room moved. Victor Chan stood in the middle of the gym that had been his domain for 3 years, looking at the closed door, then at the poster with the characters, then at the students. He could have said something, explained, gathered what had happened into words that would have made him the authority again. He said nothing. He simply sat down on the floor, directly on the wood, which was completely unlike Victor Chan, who had never sat on the floor in front of his students. He sat the way you sit when something heavy you have been carrying for a long time suddenly turns out to be unnecessary, not from weakness, from something else. The students looked at him. "Training is over," he said. "Go home, think about what you heard. Tomorrow we begin again." He paused. "Differently." What happened to Victor Chan after that evening is harder to describe. Those who trained with him for several more years describe a change that is difficult to put into a single word. He became a different kind of teacher, not worse, different. He explained less, asked more. He often admitted he didn't know. That was uncomfortable for him and for some students who came precisely for certain answers. Those who could tolerate the discomfort stayed. Those who needed answers went to other schools. Chan said that was as it should be. Bruce Lee would die less than a year after that evening, on July 20, 1973, in Hong Kong, at 32 years old. He would not have enough time to complete everything he had started. He would leave behind journals, letters, notes, and questions that still have no final answers. In one of his journals, there is an entry dated approximately the same period. "The most dangerous man is the one who thinks he has stopped learning." He wrote that not about any one specific person. He wrote it about everyone, including himself. Jeet Kune Do is forbidden from being registered as a trademark. This is one of the few principles Bruce Lee established in writing. No one should have the right to own this name, because the moment someone begins to own it, it stops being what he had in mind. Schools of Jeet Kune Do exist to this day. Good ones, poor ones, varying ones. In most of them, people teach what Bruce Lee did. In few of them do people teach what he meant. The difference between those two things is the entire story. And there is a question this story leaves open, not about Bruce Lee. About you. Where are you right now passing on the form while believing you are passing on the substance? Where are you teaching the answer when you should be teaching the question? It could be work, parenting, friendship, any skill you pass on to others or only to yourself. The hardest moment in this story is not when Bruce Lee reveals himself. The hardest moment is when Victor Chan sits down on the floor, because to sit like that, to admit like that, is harder than any technique.